Bone broth. You may or may not have come across recent social media trends where people are drinking this on a daily basis, but why? Well, for starters, bone broth is absolutely loaded with collagen and protein. For the people unaware, collagen is a structural protein that supports skin and bone health. You naturally produce less collagen as you age, which is one of the reasons why your skin develops wrinkles. Eating more collagen is a great way to promote youthfulness. Today, I'll show you how to make a simple and delicious bone broth soup with radish, so you don't have to drink bone broth from a box. Let's get started. Oh, real quick, I'm still really new to YouTube, so if you like my content, please like and subscribe. It'll help me a lot moving forward. And my question for you today is, do you prefer live commentary videos like this one, or do you prefer voiceovers like this video? Please let me know in the comments, and without further ado, let's get cooking. So, I get asked to make this broth all the time from my girlfriend because she's super into skincare and collagen and whatnot. And this soup is a great way for getting collagen into your system. So we start with some pork leg bones. I got these from H-Mart, or not H-Mart, an Asian grocery store near me. And it was about $1.28 per pound, so that's super cheap. And they usually sell these in bulk. So I got like 4 or 5 pounds of them. And then I just like to freeze the rest, to make them at a later date. So I just prepped some ginger and some scallions. We're gonna be using these for the meat later when we're cooking them. I defrosted these an hour or two ago. And I like to start out with a bit of flour. I like to coat the entire surface area with some flour. So flour is very absorbative. It's great at getting out, the gunk and impurities from the meat. And, just give it a quick little toss. Make sure that it coats every single surface. And once you get something like that, it should be good to go. And we're gonna go give these a quick rinse. Just gonna wash the flour right off of them. So I like to wash these until the water is basically clear. All you gotta do is just wash some of the gunk off and you're good to go. So set these aside for now, and we're just gonna prep some radish for later. I like to use daikon radish. So that's basically the Korean or Chinese radish. I guess you could use regular radish for this, but daikon is really nice because it has a really sweet and mild taste to it, so it complements the soup really well. I'd expect regular radish to be a little too sharp for this soup, but hey, you're always welcome to try and let me know how it turns out. And we want to peel the skin because the skin is, where the sharpest flavors are. If you peel the skin off, it's gonna have a more sweet and mild taste to the radish. And we can always save these for later too, because these are actually great for making cold dishes. This chopping method I'm doing now is called, untranslated into English, it's called rolling knife. And basically it's just a really fast way for cooks in China to cut a vegetable into similar sized chunks. And you just basically rotate as you cut. So very quickly, cut it down into chunks. And that's basically it. That's all the prep work. So let's get these on the stove. So we are going to submerge the bones into some cold water. You don't want to drop it into boiling water because that way the meat really toughens up and then it becomes really hard to chew, so we want to avoid that. We want the temperature to slowly come up so the meat's actually enjoyable to eat. We will toss in the ginger from earlier, and we will toss in the scallion knot that we tied. And then we will add in a little bit of cooking wine. And we'll slowly let that come to a boil. So as it slowly comes to a boil, you're gonna start to see like tiny bits of scum float up to the surface. All right, now that it's come to a boil, we're gonna start skimming these off because that's just gunk from the bones and it's just nasty. No one wants to eat that. Skimmed most of it off. We're just gonna let that boil for another 2 or 3 minutes. These look to be just about ready. Let's scoop the bones out and we'll set these aside. And there we have it. Perfectly clean bones. Time to make the broth now. Okay, and to make the broth, let's start with some neutral oil in a pan. And give your bones a nice wipe with some paper towels. You know, just so when you put them in the pot, it doesn't splatter oil everywhere, so you might burn yourself. And in goes the bones. Well, we're gonna give the outside a quick little sear and sear it with some ginger slices, so that way we can infuse the bones with the ginger. That was gonna make it taste so much better. After a quick sear, we're going to add some boiling water. Just enough to cover the top of the bones. And it's pretty important to add boiling water because, you know, if you do like to eat the meat off of the bones, if you add cold water to hot meat, it's going to cause the meat to stiffen up and it's not going to be fun to chew on. So, essential that we add boiling water. So for this step, we're going to let this cook at a rolling boil for about 15 to 20 minutes. When it comes to bone-based broths, the key is to make it really milky. So by milky, what I mean is, you know, it's a cloudy broth, and this is done by cooking it at a really high boil. And the high temperature emulsifies the fat and the protein from the bones into the, you know, into the water. So that way it becomes really cloudy. If you want to make like a clear stock, like with chicken stock, you want to cook it at a really low heat, like a gentle simmer for long periods of time. So that way the stock is completely clear. You won't have any emulsified proteins or fats. So good rule of thumb, milky broth, high heat, regular stock, low heat. So just over 15 minutes later, notice how much more cloudy the broth has become. So now we're going to add boiling water one more time. We want to add just enough so the top of the bones are covered. And now we can just turn the heat down to a low simmer and let this cook for about an hour and a half with the lid on. All right, it's been about an hour and 30 minutes. Oh, that's hot. Nice, and we've got a really nice cloudy broth. Looks really good, smells amazing. So we've got 30 minutes left. Perfect time to add the radish. The reason why we're adding the radish towards the end is because we don't want to cook this for too long, otherwise it becomes a radish soup. You know, the radish can taste pretty overwhelming when overcooked. So we just really want this to get in there, get some of that flavor in there, and cook it so it is not going to be melting, you know, into the soup itself. So once all your radish is in, we're gonna let it cook for another 20 to 30 minutes, and after that, we're ready to eat. Now, just over 20 minutes later, this broth is looking amazing. Radish is cooked, just soft enough to be enjoyable, but it won't fall apart. And look at that creamy broth. Nice, milky, and cloudy. Nice. All right, well, then let's get this in a bowl and start eating. All right, and then we'll start with some of the pork bone on the base because I personally love to munch on these things. Oops. Made a mess. And we'll get some radish. Nice healthy serving. And then we'll finish off with our broth. To top it off, you could always add some goji berries. These are also known as wolf berries. They're really rich in fiber and antioxidants. And of course, can't forget chopped scallions. And there you have it, a beautiful bowl of bone broth. Absolutely delicious, loaded with collagen. And there you have it, very easy, just takes a little bit of time, and ready to eat. Time to enjoy what we made. Now, notice when I made this, I didn't add any kind of seasoning. When drinking this, I suggest you add a little bit of salt as well as a little bit of white pepper powder. It's just gonna elevate the flavor a little bit. I tend to not add any seasoning because sometimes the people I make this for don't prefer seasoning in them, so it's really up to you. Enjoy.